Hey guys, it's Heather the Crochet Witch. Today I thought that we would learn, we're doing a tutorial, a long awaited, at least by me, I've been excited to do this for you guys, tutorial. My sister had given me stacks and stacks of granny squares because she's been learning how to crochet like over the last, I don't know, year or so, sorry for the falling noises in the background. Anyway, so she's been giving me these. I sorted them out because there's a few, I mean, she's learning, so there's a few that aren't the same size, but most of these are roughly the same size. And I have been wanting to show you guys how to do the continuous join, both in granny square form and in solid form. Solid we'll do another day. I think the granny's probably easier, so we'll start there. And we're gonna join all of these. I don't know what yarns she's used, so like I think a lot of them feel like kind of like Red Heart, or I'm pretty sure this is one we'd bought a long time ago at Hobby Lobby because it's all furry. I'm not really sure about that. I'm almost positive this blue one is, and that's also furry. But like this looks like Karen Simply Soft. Anyway, that's really not the point. Just if you were going to ask, I don't know. I don't know exactly which yarns that she used. I can tell you today we're going to be using, you know, I've been trying to get rid of like Hobby Lobby yarn from previous clearances. So we're going to be using this. I love this yarn, super soft, super savings print. And this is in the colorway Florabelle. So it's just a nice pretty, there's some like peach and blues, different blues, and then some whites. It's just a nice pretty variegated color that I had a couple of, so I figured we'd join up some of these and make like a lap blanket size blanket. Normally with granny squares I use an H hook. Today we're going to be using an I hook, which is a 5.5 Susan Bates. Yes, it is. Just making sure. But yeah, I usually use an H hook, but like I said, I don't know what she's used, and her squares look a little bit bigger than mine, whether it's the learning of the stitching or the hook size. I don't know what sizes she used. So we're going to use an I hook to join. And a lot of times when squares are different sizes, like slightly different sizes, I mean, just because of like yarn sizes or whatever, or because like even though they're both 4s, Red Heart is thicker than Karen Simply Soft. But if you mix the two, sometimes the squares will be a little bit different size. With granny stitch and the continuous join, that doesn't matter as much. It still matters. I mean, you still can't use like a bulky 6 with like a 4-weight yarn, but I mean, I'm sure you can, but it'll be a little bit wonky. Not the point of the video, getting off track. Anyway, before I start and bring the camera down and we start showing you, I'm going to try, I drew a diagram, and I'm going to try to show you the way you're going to go once you get this started. Like X, it looks complicated, but I promise you it's not. X is where we're starting from. So we're going to start just in the corner, like in this corner right here of the granny square. And we're only going to work part of it. We're going to work the bottom part and one edge of it. And then the continuous join starts already because we're going to move on to the next part. We're going to leave these sides bare for right now. Hopefully, I'm going to leave this diagram up just a little bit longer because once we get going, if you want to come back and reference it, it'll be here on the screen around the 4-minute time mark. But yeah, this is roughly the way that we're going to go, and we're going to work like rows like this, and then work up and do the whole side down. And then we're going to join this and work up again and join, and work up again and join back, and work up again and join back, and work the whole side again. And we're going to do that however long you want your blanket. So you're going to want to figure out ahead of time, as you would when you're sewing these together, of course, what size and how many rows of how many blocks you want to do. In this instance, we're just doing 3x4. But so basically, as you work, you're leaving this entire side bare, because you work up and around and up and around, and then when you work this final side, you just come down and join it, and that's how the whole thing gets bordered. And then of course from there you can add your bigger borders if you want. I'm a fan of that myself, but you don't have to, of course. Yeah, so why don't we get started? I will get the camera moved around and join you guys back here in just a second. Okay, so here we go. And the beginning part is literally just doing granny square rounds. We're going to make a slip knot. Excuse me. And we're going to join that yarn to the corner. Now you can join it like this. Normally I do like a foundation double crochet or whatever join, a standing one I suppose you would call it, but we're just gonna join it with a slip knot and chain 3, and then do just a regular granny stitch cluster, which is 3 double crochets. And then I do not chain, especially when I'm doing the join. I don't really on my granny squares anyway, chain 1 or anything, but when I do the border, I definitely don't. It's just easier, and you'll probably see why coming up, but we're just going to do 3 granny stitches here, or 3 double crochet here to make the granny stitch cluster. And just keep going up the side. 1, 2, and 3. And then keep going. However, so if your granny squares are bigger or smaller than this, obviously you're going to do more or less of these. I believe I'm doing 7 clusters going up. And we're just going to get up to the corner. So 1, 2 double crochet, oop, 3 double crochet, and then 1, 2, and 3 double crochet, and then we get to our corner. So we're going to put into our corner the same 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3 double crochet. And then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work into the same corner because we're making a corner on our next row, basically, because this is just rows joined to rows, sort of. The best thing ever about this is the only ends that you have to sew in are your beginning and your end, unless you have to add a second ball of yarn, depending on how big your blanket is or whatever, and that's it. There's no extra sewing. Now we're going to go, we've done this side, we're going to go down this side, and we're just going to work the granny clusters of 3 double crochet. Okay, I'm going to do 3 double crochet here, and then the next one, 1, 2, excuse me, and 3. And 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. then we are up in the corner. Now in the corner, we're only going to do one cluster because we're not going to turn the corner and go into this side. Okay, so we're going to work 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Normally you would chain 1 and then continue on. That's just where you're going to leave it. So we've got the bottom and the side, and then the top part and the other side are just going to be bare for right now. And we're going to pick our next square. Let's do this one. So we're going to set that up here for a second. And what you're going to do is rotate your square. Okay. So you're going to have, okay, get the string out of the way, Heather. So we're going to have the side that we worked at the top and on the left, or I suppose on the other side if you're left-handed. But we're going to have the top and the side, and we are just going to keep the yarn at the top all the time and get ready to do your next double crochet, but you're going to put the next double crochet into this corner down here on your next square so that when they're lined up, they'll be lined up like this, okay? But bordered and together, and we're about to start that, I promise. I'm just showing you like the layout basically. So you're going to do your first stitch of this cluster, and then normally you would just keep going, but we're joining. So let me get you in camera here. Pull this up for a second, keep your yarn above you, and then find the next stitch. So you're not going to worry about this first stitch. It's already joined to this first stitch right here, okay? You're going to find the second stitch of the cluster and pop your hook through it. And then you're going to go back to the loop that you left behind and pull it over and tighten it up, and then work your double crochet as normal. And this is going to seem a little awkward at first, but honestly, you get into a rhythm of it as you work. Like I did one of these earlier. I did some rows just to get it ready for this tutorial, and because we're going to switch to that in a few, but it goes so quickly. So I'm going to show you again. Keep that loose, and now you're going to go to the next, which is the third of this cluster, and pop it through that stitch, the top of the double crochet, and then pop it through the ring and tighten that up. So you have the stitches from this cluster here, the top of it, and then you have your ring or your loop, and then you're just going to yarn over and work this double crochet. Okay. And then pull it up again. Now see, and the reason why I use this variegated is maybe not like with the first stitch, but as we go, I think it's going to show you the join better, like the actual join. Sorry, I touched the camera. But we're just going to move right on to the next stitch, which is the first double crochet of the next cluster. So you got 1, 2, and 3. There's the first stitch of the next cluster. Just put your hook right through and put your hook through the top of the double crochet that you just made and tighten it back up. And then, since we're doing granny stitches, we're just going to dive into this next cluster right here, this next chain or space in between the clusters, and pull it on through everything. Keep it loose. You can even put your finger in there. Sometimes I do that. Go to the next stitch of the cluster, which is the middle stitch now. Pull it tight and yarn over and do your next double crochet. Okay, let's pull it up and go to the last stitch of the cluster. Put it through your loop and yarn over and do a double crochet. And pull it up. And like I said, keep your yarn above you a little bit. But now both of these are joined. and they're joined pretty flat. Like you can see right here is what I've been talking about, and you'll see it as we go on. But right here, it looks like you've taken a needle and whip stitched over it. The back of it is flat together. And it'll become a little more apparent and a little less. To me, the first few stitches look a little bit like messy, but they won't be, honestly. There's like, I never want to not do the continuous join for blankets again. Honestly, like this is my favorite way to do it. So you've just finished your double crochet. Now we're going to move up to the bottom stitch, which is the first of the next cluster. Put your hook through and put your hook through and wow, Heather, and tighten it up. And then just double crochet as normal, but into the next space because we're moving up to the next space between clusters. Okay. And we're going to do one. And then we're going to do the middle one. Tighten that and yarn over and dive back in there and double crochet as normal. And then pull through everything. If I haven't said that a few times already, pull through everything as you go. And that's where you're making the join, obviously. So we're going to go into the last stitch of the cluster. And then into our ring also. So you should have all of those on there. And then yarn over and dive back in, making your double crochet. One. And when you make your last double crochet, pull through everything and leave your loop again. See, it's already starting to not look that messy, and you can see because especially the variegated yarn, like this is your stitches from here, just crisscrossed with your stitches from here. Okay, you want to do this together one more time, and then we'll get back, we'll meet you at the top here again. But we're going to start our next cluster. So we're going to go into the first stitch of that cluster and into the loop that you've drawn up and tighten it up. And then dive into your next cluster. Space, cluster space. Okay. Pull that loop up. And it's awkward and slow going for me right now because I'm in front of the camera, in front of the light, in front of me. So I have all that stuff in between. Essentially, you guys are in between me and the work so that you can see what I'm doing. But it's moving a lot slower, of course, because of that. But that might be good so you guys can see what I'm doing too. I mean, obviously you're positioning, but I'm saying me going slower might be good so you can see what I'm doing. But we're just going through the clusters and then, or the stitches, and then making the double crochets as normal, making a cluster and joining. Okay. See, and it lays really, really flat, and you can see this line now for sure. You can see where the blue started here in the variegation. And again, the back is just flat. It's a flat join. There's no big ridges. Honestly, I literally never want to do this any other way again. I'm going to pause the camera and work up to my last cluster right here, and then I'll show you how to do the corners, okay? So I will be right back. Okay, so we've gone up a few more clusters here, and you can see this, it's just, that is the most raise that you get from this join. That's it. Like I said, it's just, to me, it looks like it's been whip stitched over, except you don't have a needle and a thread and any ends to continuously tie in. And if you've done a lot of sewing, which I don't like any of the raised joins, so I do a lot of sewing, or I did before I learned how to do this. And so if you're like me, you don't want too much yarn at a time because you don't want it to knot up and all that, and it's just a hassle basically to me. Like, it makes it look better because it's flat, and that way if you wanted to do this side, you know, if you're laying down and you want this side, This side isn't going to be bumpy either against you, and it's not going to look bumpy if this is the side you have up. So it looks nicer, it feels nicer. And this is nice and flat too. Like I said, this seam doesn't go up any higher than your stitches do, really. It just looks like a textured seam going up. I love this join, if I haven't said that yet enough times. So we're going to get up to this corner. So we're going to work the top, well, the bottom, I guess, the first stitch of the cluster, and pop it through your loop, and then double crochet as normal into this top cluster up here. And you've been with me so far, so you know we're going to do that all 3 times, right? Next loop right here. Double crochet, pull it through all of the loops, and then one last time we're going to go right here into the top double crochet, or the last double crochet of that cluster. Put your loop through and pull it in tight. I can speak today, I promise. And then go over here into the corner of your last stitch there. Okay, so it's tilting down just a tad bit, because remember, this part is already done. This is already your border up here. So we got to make the border here, right? So pull this up, and then right here is the corner of your last one. Put it through there. Put your hook through there, and then back in. Okay, and then right here, you are just going to yarn over and pull through all of them on your hook. So that corner is joined now too into the next stitch that you're going to put right here down into your corner stitch. You're going to do the second half of your corner stitch. But that block is now fully joined from top to bottom with you. Okay, so we're going to just continue about basically as normal from here. Your first stitch, you might want to just make sure is slightly tight right there, and it's going to look a little loose and awkward regardless. So I mean, you can try as hard as you want to get it as tight as you want. Don't let it be too loose, but it's not going to look super tight right there, because when you come up here and you're joining the next set of squares, you're going to dive into the 2 corners anyway to cinch your work together with that corner. So from here, you're just going to do the double crochet clusters as normal, and you're going to work down this row. Okay, because this is the top row right now. And you're just going to work there, and then you're going to work your corner as normal, chain 1 in between, and work down this side, okay? Okay, excuse me. So we have gotten the join here and back down. We've worked here. I just turned it because I just finished this row right here. And if you remember, let's go back to that chart that I had showed you guys to begin with. So what we've done is started here. We've worked up and back down, which is here. We've worked up and back down. We've gone over. Now, if we wanted to keep going, we could have added squares here, but essentially we're here, and we've worked up here. We're going to follow this arrow. Now this bare edge right here, we are going to work the border here, and we're always going to be starting back down here again. This is the finish. So this is bare at the moment. As you can see here, it's bare. When we work and join and come back again for the next row, however many rows you do, this is always bare. So don't worry, you are going to have a bare edge, okay, as seen here. But we do have to get back to the beginning, so we're going to work all the way down here again. So I am going to do that, and then I'm going to meet you guys back. So this part is just as normal. You're just going to chain 1 for your corner, and then you're just going to make your double crochets into clusters as normal, your normal granny stitches, all the way back down. Okay, so I will meet you back here just to show you what I do whenever I get to a join, but I'm going to work all of this here and meet you at the next join. I will be right back, guys. Okay, so I have worked this edge and I am back to this join right here, and I've worked 2 of the double crochets. I'm about to work the 3rd one. Okay, and then I am just where this first double crochet is in this cluster right here, I'm sticking my hook in and sticking it out in this cluster right here, yarning over and pulling it through everything, just like that. And then I am just continuing on. So I just basically joined those together, and we're just going to do the next double crochet and the next 2 to make this cluster. All right. So it'll look a little bit dipped in. That's okay. We will be fixing that, I promise, when we do the next row. But I'm just going to go all the way down and meet you guys back at this corner. So we're just going to work 3 double crochets in each for the granny stitch and 1, whereas normally you would turn the corner and you would do a cluster, a chain 1 and a cluster. We're just going to do a cluster and then meet back up, and we're going to join the next square. So I'll meet you guys in just a moment. Okay, so here we are back. We've worked the top of this right here all the way over, and this is your bare side that you're always going to have. So we started here, right here. We worked up and we worked here, and then we joined and came back down. We worked over, and then if you had more squares, you would do the same thing and just work up and then join and come down and work over. But when you get to the very last square of however many you're joining, you're going to work up that bare side and then back down the road to your, I call it my starting side. Your starting side will always be bare here until you finish off your blanket, your project. But we're going to start joining the next square, which will be this pretty pink one, just for some contrast. And you're going to flip your work so that your already bordered side is to your right. And I made a big old twisted mess while I was doing all that. But you're going to keep, goodness, I twisted everything up. Hold on. You're going to keep your working side right here, or your finished side right here. And you're going to keep your bare-sided project over here. We just finished the 3rd double crochet of the cluster. And we're just going to yarn over, grab our next square, and pop the hook right into the corner space right there and do a double crochet. So those 2 squares are now joined, even though it looks a little messy right now because it's only 1 double crochet holding them together. You're going to pull your loop up, find your 2nd stitch of the cluster and put it through both. Yarn over and start your double crochet as normal, but pulling through everything as we go to finish right there. Pull your loop up and find your last stitch of the cluster, your 3rd stitch. Put your hook through your drawn out loop and tighten it, and then yarn over and work your double crochet. On your 2nd yarn over, pull through everything. Okay, so we've started joining this right here, and you can see, and again, like it was with the first set of squares that we joined, the first one might look a tad bit wonky, but it won't as you go. We're going to do 1 more together here, 1 more cluster. So we're going to put the hook into the 1st stitch of the cluster and through the loop and tighten it up, and then yarn over and go into the next space between clusters
and work your double crochet and pull through everything on the last pull of the double crochet. And find the second stitch, pop it through the second stitch and the loop, draw that tight again, yarn over and work your double crochet and pull through everything, and find the third stitch of the double crochet cluster, put it through the stitch and the loop that you've drawn up and tighten it, and then work the third one, the third double crochet, but pulling through everything at the end. Okay, and there's the second cluster joined, and see it's starting to show you that thin line like it did over here, and everything is joined very well, as you can see, because it is just one strand of yarn working through everything. So I am going to meet you guys back up at the corner, and we're going to join all of these corners together so that they're a solid piece before we move down this side of the yarn again. So I will be back in just a moment. All right, we are back. I have worked this part and joined everything here. I love this join. I love the flatness of it. And I love how the back is just flat. It's one solid piece. You can see like all the pulling in the world isn't going to pull it apart because there's nothing to pull apart. It's solidly stitched together. It's wonderful. The only time there's going to be, like if I run out of this yarn and I have to join a new one to finish this, then that's going to be it as far as ends to sew in, as far as weak spots to pull apart. Nothing's going to happen to this. It's wonderful. So I have worked the first of the 3 double crochets of this cluster in the corner here. We're going to do the second one. By now you guys are pros at this, I'm sure. We're just doing some final touches to show you the corners and such, but the actual joining, I'm sure you guys are pros at this by now. So we do 1 more double crochet, and then the last one, which is right here, yarn over, do your double crochet, pull through. All right, pull up. Now, before we work down this bare side right here, I just want to cinch all these corners together and make sure they're all solidified, unified, one piece. So we're going to find the actual corner of this first square right here, which is 1, 2, 3, and dive in there. And then we're going to do the same on this square. So 1, 2, and 3. Where are you, corner? Right there. Okay. So the hook is through both corner pieces of both of the previous squares, and you're going to put it through the loop, pull it tight. Get this in focus the best that I can here. You're going to yarn over and pull through everything and just pull this hook back out where it came from. Okay. So you're essentially just kind of slip stitching it together, I suppose, is what you're doing. But now that is all one solid, unified, no holes in between piece. So you're going to, at this point, yarn over and do your corner stitch cluster. So you're going to do 1, 2, get on camera, that would be helpful, and 3 double crochets. Okay, and now you are starting down this bare edge right here. So we are going to work down the bare edge, and I will meet you guys back, and we're going to join the last square of this mini project that I'm showing you. So I will work down, and I will be back in just a few moments. All right, so I have went down this side, which is no longer bare because there's a border, and I have finished at the corner working only 3 of the stitches instead of 3 stitches, chain 1 and 3 more stitches because we are not going down this side right now. We're leaving that bare. But to add our next square, we are going to turn our work and try not to tangle up all my yarn while we're doing that, so that our corner that we're joining to, our side that we're joining to, is at our right again. And then you can see that this is all joined. Here's a pretty continual join right here, and it lays so nice and flat, and there's just like the tiniest raised, it looks literally like you just sewed it together. So here is another square, and we're going to join that now. And again, I imagine at this point you guys are pretty much pros, but just for the sake of doing a full square together, or a full project together, we are going to, as I said, we've worked 1, 2, and 3 double crochets into here, turned it, and we're just going to yarn over, grab our next square, and go right into the corner here, and we're going to yarn over and do our double crochet as normal. Okay, so there is 1 double crochet holding this together here. Pull our loop out and find the second stitch of the double crochet cluster, which is right there. Stick our hook through and stick our hook through the loop that we have just pulled out and tighten. And like, honestly, the pulling of the loops may seem tedious, but how tedious is it sewing these suckers together? I'm just saying, like, if you want a flat join, this is it as far as I'm concerned. This is like the greatest thing since sliced bread. So pull your loop up, find your third and final double crochet of this cluster, put your hook through and put your hook through the loop that you just pulled up, tighten it, and then yarn over and work your double crochet, pulling through, yarning over, and pulling through everything. Okay, and let's do one more cluster together, and then we're going to work up to this corner and I will join the 4 corners with you. So find the first stitch of the next cluster, which is right here. Put your hook through and put your hook through the loop you just pulled up and tighten. And then dip into the next space between clusters and begin that cluster stitch. And pull through everything. Put your hook into the very middle of the stitches. Draw it tight. And work a double crochet, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull through everything. And then your third and final one, put your hook through the loop that you made, draw it tight, yarn over, and double crochet, and pull through everything. So here is this lovely join. You can, excuse me, you can really see the way the stitches, like these grayer stitches are here, and the bluer stitches go to here. So they really just mix together and join up nicely and are solid. And yeah, so I am going to join this and meet you back up for this last cluster right here in the corner. We're going to work that, join them together, and then we'll be joining down here to show you how to finish out the row. So I will be right back in just a few moments, guys. Okay, so here we go. We have gotten all the way up and done this beautiful, wonderful join all the way up to the corner. Oh goodness, so sorry you guys. I told you you're at an awkward angle right now. So you'd think this was my first tutorial, right? So I worked the first double crochet of the cluster here in the corner. We're going to pull up our loop. We're going to find the middle one, the middle stitch of the cluster. We're going to put it over the hook, or we're going to put the hook through it, I should say, and the hook through the loop and tighten it. We're going to yarn over and work your regular double crochet. pulling through everything on the last pull. And then we're going to find the final double crochet, which is here. We're going to put it through the loop and pull tight, yarn over, work a double crochet, and pull. Okay, so now we are to the corner. We are just going to unite all of this together here, all of our four squares before we finish the join here. We are going to, remember we have already locked these together here, right? So we're going to lock this to them now. We're going to find this spot in between here, and instead of coming into here, we're going to come into this one. We're going to put our hook in between this, like where the corner would be. So there's 3 double crochet here and 3 double crochet here. There's 3 double crochet here, and there's 3 double crochet here. So we're putting our hook through there. We're putting our hook through our loop and tightening it. And then we are trying to get this on camera for you guys. We're going to yarn over and just pull through everything. So the best that you can. Pull through. And if it seems really, really tight, that's okay. You can just continue working from there. If you have to make one more loop to feel like it's loose enough here, that's okay too, because that's going to go right in and join in here. Okay, so you've made your loop, you pulled it through. If you felt necessary to make one more chain, that's fine. You don't have to. You can just keep it nice and tight if you want to. It's just to help you get all the way through all those stitches, because I do recognize that that is a lot of stitches to go through in the corners. But it's so worth it, you guys. So now we're going to join here. We're going to find the first, so here's 1, 2, here's the first stitch of that cluster. And then we're going to get our loop over the hook also, and we're going to draw that tight. All right. And then we're going to just yarn over and dip back into this corner to start going down this side. Pull your loop up, go into the middle here tightly, do your double crochet, and go into the last stitch of the cluster. Put your loop over and tighten it, and then yarn over and double crochet. And then you can see that this sucker lays nice and flat. Of course, it looks wonky where the join has not been joined yet, but when these are together, it will. But this is nice and flat. You have these beautiful, just whip stitch looking edges here. And again, you can pull, and this sucker is not going anywhere because it's all one join. So I am going to get back up to the top here, and I will meet you back in just a minute, and we will talk about finishing off this project. All right, I'll talk to you in a minute, guys. Okay, so we are back with all of this joined here, right here, nice and tight, nice and snug. And I did the first double crochet of the corner again. Here's my loop. We're going into the second stitch, pulling it tightly, and going into this corner here and working our double crochet, but pulling through everything on the second part. And then the last one right there, we're going to put our hook into the third double crochet of the cluster, put it through the loop and pull it tight, and then work our double crochet up. Okay, and then literally, that is everything here that you have now done. You'll notice where we started was here. We went up and, well, we joined, we went up this way, I'm saying. We went around, and then we crocheted all the way down here to attach our next square at our starting side. And then we went up, and then we joined a new square and went up. So of course here you could have joined a new square and went up again until you're finished, until you're complete with your rows. And then we're going to just work across, we're going to work down our side, and then this is where you can choose to add another square and go back up again for a row. Or if you've finished your project, you just go down here and close off your bare edge, and this is where you started your project. So that's everything, you guys. And you see how nice and flat and lovely this is. And like I said, I think using the variegated yarn shows you guys that it joins together here and just looks like a whip stitch all the way up. The back of it is a nice flat join. You don't have any ridges to worry about, no bumps, no nothing. That's it, you guys. I hope that you have found this tutorial useful. If there's any questions that you have, be sure to ask down below and I will try to get back to you. And also that will help me for what I didn't explain well enough, because I am going to do a solid version. Like this is the granny stitch version. I'm going to do a solid version if you wanted to stitch in here, of course, which as you imagine is pretty similar. And I'm sure that if you've got this, you'll get that probably without help of my video at all, honestly. But yeah. So I hope that you found this tutorial useful. I hope that it helped you out. I know there's several others, but not a whole lot of continual join videos that I've found out there. If you haven't and you would like to subscribe down below, click the like button down below, drop a comment. There will be upcoming tutorials. There will be the solid version of this. I have a cowl coming up. There'll be lots more things coming up. I also do podcasts, yarn hauls. I got a yarn order in actually for you guys coming up. So make sure to hit the bell when you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And again, I hope this helps. I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.